Last week we noticed some of the people who were gathered around Jesus as he was crucified at Calvary. Now we know the story well. We know that after his death, Jesus was laid in a borrowed tomb and that the entrance was covered with a heavy stone. We know also that early on the Sunday morning, the women discovered that the stone had been rolled away. What a shock. Although not being there, it's really hard to fully understand the feelings and the confusion of these women on that Sunday morning. This was a very low moment in their lives. Now, most of us have had disappointments in life. I'm talking about those times when it seems that we have no control over what is happening, all that's going on in our lives and around us. Those times when life seems almost out of control and we don't know where it will end. For these women and for the disciples, nothing seemed to be making all that much sense. Jesus was dead. He was buried. It was all over, just like that. Now the women had wanted to complete the preparation of Jesus' body, the work that the Sabbath day had interrupted. Their grief was multiplied when they discovered that the tomb was empty. Why is this happening? Where is Jesus? Where's his body? Is there no end to this disaster? It keeps on going. Luke records that Mary turned and she saw two men, angels, standing there, and they ask, "Why are you looking for the living amongst the dead?" That's a strange question. They must have wondered if it was all a dream. John records that after the disciples had been to check it out, to see the empty tomb for themselves, it was then that Jesus came to Mary and asked, "Why are you weeping?" She replied, "Because they've taken away my Lord." Then one word changed it all for Mary. Jesus simply said, "Mary." Immediately her demeanour changed. Her heart was filled with joy, replacing all of that sadness and grief. Jesus is alive. Jesus met with many people in the days following his resurrection. One account that I particularly appreciate is when Cleopas and another follower of Jesus, we think it may have been his wife, they gave up and they went home. Now they were feeling pretty rotten as well. And so they left everything behind in Jerusalem. They left behind all of those troubles as they began to trudge toward their home in Emmaus. I think we can understand something of that sad journey. There are times too when we feel as though there is not much at all that we can do in our circumstances, and so we seek to retreat to a familiar place of comfort. Often that place is our home, or maybe another special place. But I love that Jesus came alongside of those two in their grief and in their misery as they plodded along the road. They didn't realise who it was because, as Luke says, God kept them from recognising Jesus. This stranger, he knew nothing about the events of the last few days, it seemed. There'd been a lot happening in Jerusalem. They couldn't understand that because everyone, the whole community knew about it. You had to know about it. And this stranger, though, began to unpack the scriptures for them, pointing to all the prophetic writings that described the coming of the Messiah and how Jesus fitted into that picture. Jesus took them through what we know as the Old Testament, and he explained it to them in a way that they understood it. This would have been a Bible study like no other. Imagine being with Jesus as he opened the scriptures, revealing truths that pointed to the coming of the Messiah, Jesus. When they arrived at their home in Emmaus, they invited Jesus to come in, to share a meal with them and to stay the night. The very moment that Jesus broke the bread, their eyes were opened. They recognised Jesus for who he was. Now, there are a couple of points worth considering here. Firstly, we are never alone. The Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. That's from Romans 8:11. Consider for a moment when we invite Jesus to be Lord and Saviour in our life. We have an amazing power source deep within us. Maybe we don't always recognise, who is with us. However, we are never alone. These are people whose lives were changed because of Jesus. And it's when we understand the resurrection and the power of the resurrection that our lives are changed as well. Now, much of this is summarised in Jesus' word to Mary. Mary. Isaiah 43 reminds us, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." He knows your name, and that changes absolutely everything. It's worth thinking about. Have a blessed week.